Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Lock the door. Lock the door. Take away the key. Take away my liberty. Little kids wearing masks. Food lines for hours, hours. You can't pay the rent. You haven't got a cent. We got you where we want you. You'll never know the real truth.
The state of idiocracy in this country is it's getting to a maximum height around here. And one thing that the idiocracy has to have is no principles. No principles at all, just fear and emotion and those kind of things to drive the idiocracy forward. The mask mandates and social distancing and washing your hands many times, as Anthony Fauci says. Oh, 2 masks. No, 1 mask, 2 masks. Oh, you got to stand 10 foot apart, 6 foot apart, 7 foot apart. There's no principle in it. There's nothing, no facts. They come out with no facts at all. And here in my local county, the state of idiocracy was in full bloom the other night at the county council meeting when they were working on passing a mass resolution that told everybody required to wear a mask when you're in council chambers. And the discussion that went on around it is interesting. It is a prime example of idiocracy. Stay tuned.
It's a resolution requiring individuals to wear face coverings while in council chambers. I'll turn to Mr. Tucker, if I should read that first, or would you like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it and you can read it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, at this time that we adopt the resolution that's before you, requiring all individuals to wear face coverings here in the Kershaw County Council chambers.
Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner, and I will go ahead and read it, and then we'll have discussion. So, resolution requiring individuals to wear face coverings, whereas on March 13th, 2020.
Yeah, y'all can go back and listen to the whole thing. I'm gonna put a link in the bottom for the whole meeting. It's almost 3 hours long if you want to watch all of it. But we'll just catch the highlights, the important parts, the lessons that you need to learn if you're not going to get caught in the idiocracy. And so now here we are with Sammy Tucker introducing his resolutions and the reasons why. Go ahead, Sammy, let's hear it from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, my colleagues, I don't want to belay going into a deep discussion. I just want to say this is something we've been doing for the last 11 months, is wearing face coverings. And somehow I had a family issue I had to attend to last council meeting, and we got deep.
Oh, here, I'll stop right here. Sammy was not at the last meeting. He watched the last meeting. So that's an important point for right now. And then he says, we've been wearing masks for 11 months. Well, what has that got to do with anything? But anyway, go ahead, Sammy, let's finish up.
Railed it. And so we're just now publicly announcing what we've been doing for 11 months. And that's it. Nothing's changed. Nothing affects the citizens outside this chamber or anywhere in the county that they haven't been doing already that's been passed by the city or the governor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So what he's saying is this doesn't change anything for anything outside the county chambers, that little room right there. He also points out that Camden, the city that county council meets in, has an ordinance, a mask ordinance, to which Jimmy Jones was obeying to the letter of the law a 6-foot distance. And you'll notice here that Jimmy Jones is still not wearing his mask as per the last meeting where he won the battle. And then we have the second, Mr. Gardner, explaining why he supports the resolution.
Second was Mr. Gardner, sir.
Well, I just believe that face masks work. I know CDC recommends it, and I just believe that face masks work, and we're in fairly close proximity, whether it's 6 feet or non-6 feet. I just think masks are appropriate. Thank you.
Very good. Other comments?
Okay, so he believes that masks work because the CDC recommends it. But yet, he puts no evidence up or anything. Let's look at a couple of mask studies. Okay, so we'll just go through a few of these mask studies. I'm going to leave a lot of links in the description below. You can go back and read all these yourself and more. I'll include even more. This is from MedRV. Face masks and similar barriers to protect and prevent respiratory illness in the Rona systematic review. The current Rona whether face mask outside of the healthcare facilities protects against infection. So their methods and the results. Based on RCTs, we would conclude that wearing conclude that wearing face masks can be very slightly protective against primary infection from casual community contact. Slightly protective, they say. Then we have use of surgical masks to reduce the incidence of common cold in Japan. This was a randomized controlled study. Healthcare workers outside surgical suites in Asia use surgical type face masks commonly. Prevention of upper respiratory infection is one reason given, although evidence of effectiveness is lacking. So the results, 32 healthcare completed this study with 2,464 days, subject days. So we get to the conclusion. Face mask use in healthcare workers has not been demonstrated to provide a benefit in terms of cold symptoms or getting colds. Larger studies need to be used. Let's go to this one. Effect of surgical mask on a 6-minute walking distance. So they used a 6-minute test to evaluate the effect of wearing a surgical mask during a 6-minute walk in healthy subjects. Conclusion. Wearing of a surgical mask modifies significantly and clinically dyspnea, shortness of breath. Didn't influence how far they walked, but they got short of breath. Also, some of them got headaches. Something about headaches. Lack of oxygen causes headaches.
Just quickly, I'll just want to state where kind of my logic here.
So this is the Reverend David Snodgrass. He's one of the many preachers who served the cathedral of the state worshipers that believe everything that comes out of the state, and the state is a benevolent thing, and God put it there to rule over us, and the best thing that we can do is Romans 13, don't you know? The Reverend does not believe in individual rights when it comes to collective rights. He's it's the socialist preacher. You know, Jesus Christ was a socialist. Believes in taxing and stealing and wealth redistribution and all that. So let's listen to Mr. Snodgrass. Now, he's just like these reverends around the country. He got to be long-winded about everything he talks about. Go ahead, Mr. David Snodgrass.
I'll be the first one to say I'll be glad when all this face mask stuff is over. Looking at look at the metrics, I think maybe we're 2 months from it, between vaccine and just herd immunity from everyone who's had the infection. I think we're certainly getting there. But for me, it's about consistency. This has been our practice. When you walk into a courthouse or any other government building in the county, you're asked to wear a mask. I know the employees, they wear a mask when they're not in their own personal workspace and in meetings. So for me, it's not about trying to make anyone do something, but I feel like.
So Mr. Snodgrass says it's about consistency, y'all. It's about consistency. See, we've been wearing these masks all these 11 months because nobody wanted to kill grandma. And employees are doing it all around me, and I'm going to be consistent. Well, he doesn't say that the county has ordered all the employees to wear a mask. So if the employee doesn't wear a mask, which now is mandated, is not voluntary. If the employee says, look, I'm not wearing a mask, I've looked at all these studies and all, you know what they'll say? Well, guess what? If you don't wear the mask, you're fired. And David Snodgrass is saying he's going to be consistent and doesn't like to use force. I don't want to use force, but everybody's doing it. It's in the county buildings. If you got to be in a federal building, that has not. This is not about that. You're saying because everybody's around me is forced to do it, I'm going to do it too. Continue on, David.
I feel like if this is how the employees conduct themselves when they're here 5 days a week, 8 to 5, then I'm going to submit to the same consistency that they adhere to. So that's just my logic. Thank you.
He's going to do what's mandated by the county because the city of Camden has a face mask ordinance, which neither one of them can stand up in court anyway, because they cannot mandate that you do harm to yourself. And I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these damn masks are bad for you and bacterial pneumonia and all. But David Snodgrass is doing nothing but making excuses for him to capitulate to the cathedral of the state and the great CDC and who in the world so that he can vote for this resolution. So now here comes the man of the people here, Jimmy Jones, who last week stood against the great cathedral of state and refused to wear the mask. And I obey the law, even if it's a stupid law. But this stupid law right here, I'm obeying because I'm 6 foot apart, y'all. I'm 6 foot apart. But I obey a law, even if it's a stupid law. Mr. Stupid Law Obeying Jimmy Jones. Go for it, big boy.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, please.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Mr. DuBose, I have a legal question. The resolution, is it a law?
No, it's not a law.
It's a suggestion?
It's a resolution.
Okay. So we already have a City of Camden ordinance, don't we?
Correct.
I think we determined at the last meeting that if I'm 6 feet apart, I can sit in here with not a mask on. I'm legally within my right, correct?
Well, I think the city ordinance says that face masks are not required if you're alone in an enclosed space or able to maintain a distance of 6 feet from all other persons.
Does this resolution supersede that ordinance?
I think it would be in addition to.
But how do you enforce a resolution?
It has no enforcement mechanism in it.
Because it's not a law.
It's not a law, no.
Notice what they've said right here. Now, for years and years and years, and I know it's probably like this in your little hometown and everything, they pass resolutions, proclamations and resolutions. And the resolutions are, we love this guy and that guy, and we support Black History Month, and we support the little floating on the river, and we resolute this and that. And I'm always told that It don't matter. Resolution doesn't carry any weight. So Jimmy's pointing this out, and the little attorney's trying to fiddle around with it. He said, but he admitted there's no legal mechanism. There's no way they can charge anybody with it or anything like that because it's a resolution that carries no weight in law anyway. Even if the law was stupid, he'd obey it. But the resolution, well, I ain't gonna obey it, he think. You think? Well, continue on, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, now we got Ben Connell. Now, he's the most libertarian. He likes to say that. I lean libertarian. Well, he's a member of the Cathedral of the State, too. But listen to this. It's interesting. He makes some good points.
In reviewing this resolution, there are just too many issues in it for me to support it. I'm wearing the mask just as a courtesy. I think the chairman at the beginning of the meeting had a decent comment. Let's use some common sense. We had a family that's been, just rock solid in the community. It wouldn't be appropriate to keep everybody out while you had a presentation, Mr. Henry. Just makes sense. I think we can be reasonable and make sense in this room, I hope. We have one of our council members who has a compromised immune system. Just as a courtesy, his doctor has asked that he be around folks who wear masks during this period of time, hopefully until he's vaccinated. If a friend asks you to do something kindly, hopefully you do it. So that's why I'm wearing a mask right now.
So Ben's wearing the mask right now because he cares about everybody, and Tom, the walrus, is immunocompromised, and his doctor said, you need to be around, it'd be nice if everybody around you wore a mask and everything. So the reason, I guess Ben would not wear a mask if Tom wasn't there. It seems like Mr. Tom has special rights in. See, Mr. Tom, his feelings are more important than everybody else's feelings, and he feels like he got to make everybody wear a mask because he's scared that he's going to get this Rona, whatever the Rona is. Of course, you got a better than 98% chance, even if he gets it, even if his sick ass gets it, he's got a better than 98% chance of getting over it. But Ben Connell say, I'll do anything you want because, Jesus said, if a guy comes up and says, give me all your stuff, I give him all your stuff and do what he say. If he say, jump off the cliff and make me feel better, you run over there and jump off the damn cliff. Wake the hell up. Come on, Ben, go ahead.
Now, turning to the legal issues I see with this particular ordinance, there's no enforcement provision. It's not an ordinance. Excuse me, it's a resolution, not an ordinance. It's odd that we carve out a particular area within the county building and it doesn't apply to any others. If it's a legitimate fear of COVID-19 infection and we're imputing to everyone that you might be infected and harm someone else, that fear should transmit everywhere else. There's no definition of a face covering, so I don't know how you could actually determine whether or not somebody is in compliance. We don't have an enforcement mechanism, as I've gone through with legal before. It's why we didn't pass it the first time.
It doesn't determine what face mask. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter what you wear. If you hadn't seen the videos of people blowing smoke out and poofing out and everything, masks don't work. You ain't gonna stop it. They ain't never stopped the flu. Ain't never stopped the cold. The only way you're gonna do it is get in one of them space suits and walk around going, you know what I mean? That's the only way you're gonna stop it. And if Tom is so worried about getting the Rona, he needs to keep his ass at home and call in. He needs to go away and quit whining and crying. And if he's so damn scared, go home. What about my feelings, dog? What about my feelings? What about everybody else's feelings? It's only the people that wear the damn mask that get to say, I got feelings? Go ahead, Ben, go down the trail.
The first time when it came up for discussion. At least that's my understanding of why we didn't pass it previously. And those are really I guess, the main points that I would have. It doesn't seem like a law that we can actually apply. In my view, we shouldn't try to make laws or resolutions fashioned as laws that we can't enforce. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so being saying if we can't enforce it, you know, why should I vote for something I can't enforce? He's been like this. He's been consistent about this. He points out individual liberty and all that, but it always comes down. He doesn't understand how you can enforce it. So as this libertarian that believes in the beautification of the cathedral of the state, he's a statist cultist. He believes that God sent the state down here to do wonderful things for us and all. And he's our the government is an intermediary between us and God, see. Well, he says, if we had the mechanism to force people to comply, he'd vote for it. That's what he is essentially saying.
Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
I would point out that we have not passed an ordinance. That is, Mr. Kanal, you are correct. And I didn't vote for an ordinance based on some of the criteria that you spoke of, but this is a resolution, and we did pass a resolution for countywide use of masks, and that was unanimous. And again, I think this resolution just again reminds us that this is what our practice has been. You talk about the other parts of the building. I don't know what, there's an employee policy, but I know when I walk in for meetings, every employee in this building is wearing a mask when they are in public places. And I'm just, I'm not making a political statement about a mask. I'm just saying I'm going to do what the employees are doing when I'm here at 8 to 5.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Connell.
Mr. Snodgrass, I think you're right. It previously was a recommendation, not a mandate regarding masks. And also, the language I think we used deferred to what your doctor tells you to do. So, follow whatever your medical provider says you need to do based on your risk level, based on any particular weakness or even strength in your immune system, and follow the people who know about medicine. I mean, not necessarily us up here. We're citing the governor who hasn't required a mask mandate, and then the CDC who's only made it a recommendation. It's not a requirement. But again, for the reasons stated, I can't support this.
So after a little back and forth with Ben Cornell and David Snodgrass talking about resolutions and laws and recommendations by the doctors and following recommendations and all, Jimmy Jones has to jump back in there and talk about the resolution and how he is obeying the law.
Thank you for referencing the governor and the CDC. But, the thing about it is that it doesn't hold any water. I mean, it's just words. It's a resolution. And I'm following the law. I'm in compliance. And I just don't understand, I'm just, that we have to continue on this way. I really hate that.
So after Jimmy talks about, makes that comment, we have Mr. Sammy Tucker has to come up, and this is where it really starts getting interesting. Check out the way Sammy makes it look like he's a good guy, and anybody that opposes his point of view, his perspective, is a bad boy. Go ahead, say Mule.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes, just a couple. Mr. Chairman, this wouldn't even be a problem if we would do what you said, Ben. Just be kind to one another and respect each other's space and wishes.
And so he says we need to respect each other's space and wishes. Now, which one to do? I don't want to wear a face mask. If you want to stay with it, I want to come in your little space, but you're not, my wish is I don't wear a face mask. Just because you wish it, you want to force everybody to wear a face mask. That's what Mr. Tucker is advocating. His feelings are overrule your right to make a decision. That's what he's saying. My feelings, my beliefs, they overrule everything that you say. And you ought to obey, you ought to do what I wish you to do, because it's my feelings. He don't care about your feelings. He don't care about people that don't want to wear the mask. He doesn't care about your feelings. He cares only about his feelings, his beliefs. Just like every other damn socialist out there, full of shit.
I've sat here when we came in, and I was late getting here, and there was one person unmasked, and that was Councilman Jones when I walked in. There is right now 3 people unmasked. And all we're just trying to do is protect everyone's space. This room is not that big. And if you don't want to stay masked up that long, then walk out or, join us live stream so you can be right in on the meeting. And it's no harm, no foul. No one's not going to get upset or get angry at you. I mean, we love to have people here, but this room can only hold so many people. And I'm real respectful to other people's wishes and not infecting them and harming them. And I know we've got difference of opinion on how the virus works and what it does and whether it's real or not. I got that. But I can tell you that in my family, we have followed the guidelines and we've been blessed not to be infected. And that's because we are respecting not only ourselves, but other people in different spaces where we may have to go. So for those reasons, if you want to be defiant, if it passes, that's totally left up to you. But we've always followed resolutions and proclamations and things that this body has ruled by the majority. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
You see how Sammy does? He makes it sound like, we're doing the right thing by wearing a mask, and everybody else is not wearing a mask, is not doing the right thing.
And wishes. I've sat here when we came in, and I was late getting here, and there was one person unmasked, and that was Councilman Jones when I walked in. There's right now 3 people unmasked.
Oh my God, there's 3 people unmasked. What in the hell? Everybody flip the hell out.
And all we're just trying to do is protect everyone's space. This room is not that big. And if you don't want to stay masked up that long, then walk out or, join us live stream so you can be right in on the meeting. And it's no harm, no foul. No one's not.
They hear that? Now he said, if you unmasked people want to come to the meeting, don't come to the meeting, just sit on the telephone if you don't want to wear a mask. But on the other hand, if Tom wouldn't go there in his compromised position, wouldn't have to wear a damn mask anyway. He just wants you to. And Sammy, he's so afraid of this Rona, he'd wear butt plugs and 8 masks and a face shield and any kind of thing in the world just to protect grandma from a virus that you got over a 99% survival rate.
Going to get upset or get angry at you. I mean, we love to have people here, but this room can only hold so many people. And I'm real respectful to other people's wishes and not infecting them and harming them. And
so he's respecting other people's wishes and all, and not infecting them. You hear that bullshit? That's bullshit, Sammy Tucker. You know it. That's a double speak, spinning wheel thing. I don't know what in the world.
Very good. Other comments?
If I may,
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Tucker, you and I have had a lot of discussions in these chambers, and I must say that out of all we've had, we may not have agreed, but we never got mad at each other, and we never jump on each other, and it's not going to happen. I respect you. I have much respect for you, but you know my position, and I know your position. Now, if I'm not in compliance with the law, I'll put it on. If I walk in a restaurant, I'll put it on. When I sit at the table at a restaurant, as I did today again in Camden, I take it off, along with the people half a foot from me at another table. It just doesn't make sense. And, but we also comply with the law and all the regulations. So if y'all make it a law, I'm going to obey the law, but y'all haven't made it a law. So if you want me to put a mask on 6 feet apart from him, make it a law. and then I'll wear the mask. But I mean, otherwise, I just don't see the same necessity in that you do. But I do have respect for you.
Oh, Mr. Tucker, I respect you, Mr. Tucker. I respect your feelings, even though we disagree. Oh, I love you anyway, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy Jones makes pretty with everybody out there. His famous saying is, oh, I think we agree on most everything, and we can agree to disagree about the rest. He goes on to say, you know, this is a stupid law. It doesn't make any sense. The resolution doesn't hold weight, but I'll obey it. If you make a law, I'm obeying the law right now, y'all. I'm going into the restaurant and I'm sitting down like the ordinance says, and I'm taking my mask off, and I'm only a foot away from another table. But it makes no sense because Corona only travels, you know, above your head when you're sitting down, and he's sitting down right now. But it's not a law as long as 6 foot away. But if it's a law, if y'all make it a law, I'll obey. I'll obey any law that you come up with. Any law. That's what he's saying. I'll obey any law. Now, resolution, I can't obey a resolution, you know. But a law, any law. If they said Jews need to line up at the railway station, and that's the law, Jimmy Jones would, what? Obey the law. What if they said all the Joneses is the law, all the Joneses go to the Amtrak station in Camden, South Carolina at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, Jimmy Jones would obey the law. He has no principle. He doesn't believe in the principle of individual sovereignty. He doesn't understand that government cannot dictate anything and everything. He does not understand what victimless crimes mean. He doesn't understand that government can just not write any law any stupid law. But what the hell? He's a statist. He loves the cathedral of the state and will obey any, even stupid dictates coming down from the cathedral. So after that little tussle, the walrus, the immune compromised, the scaredy cat of Kershaw County, who believes everything that comes out of the Fauci-Wauci and the who and the CDC, and that is only what he gets through the boob tube that he sits in front of most of the day. I'm sure he watches one of the talk shows in the morning, and I guarantee you he can name every little talking head on that thing, and he talks to them like they and references to them just like they're family. I know people like that all over the place. A talk show, they'll know them all by name and know, you know, her mama's sick. Well, this is Tom Gardner. Listen to what this fool has to say.
Other comments?
I got one.
Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, if we passed a resolution that each council member got $100 for every meeting they attended, Mr. Jones, if the 6 of us got our $100 and you didn't get yours, would you want it?
I'm fine. I don't want.
No, I'm just saying though, but you know, I mean that's what you're saying. You would have no recourse to come back and get it. You're saying it's not a law, so we all get the $100, or I'm just using that as an example.
Sure.
I think what we're doing is saying resolutions are worthless, proclamations are worthless. So I would consider not having any more if that's what we're saying. So that's my point of view.
That damn walrus. Hey, did you hear the Idiocracy? The analogy he gave made no sense. No sense at all. Notice he relates it to money. That's interesting in and of itself. But then he goes on to say, well, if a resolution doesn't mean anything, I wouldn't do any more resolutions anymore. Well, what the hell have you been doing? You just honored Henry Powers and you resolute this and the support of Black History Month. Do you really think that means anything? Why do you pass ordinances if you think resolutions are good enough? Why pass a damn ordinance? You can't have it both ways, Tom. Why don't you just go home, call in, sit around with your little snowflakes and all fear? The snowflakes keep a rate of corona. Did you know that? This guy needs to go home, get him on, as Sammy Tucker says, go home and practice on your ventilator with your pants off so you don't kill grandma or yourself. Dumbass. So last but not least, we have the DARPA man, the guy, the arms salesman, the Major General Julie Burns. Now, he's been behind all this economic development. He uses the Delphi technique, and if you hadn't looked that up, maybe I'll put a link into that. You watch Mr. Julie Burns operate, and go look at the Delphi, and there's a prime example right there. But Julie Burns has got his final words for us, boys and girls. Check this out. Go ahead there, Julie Burns.
Well, I think I'll bring it up with a few last comments. We have spent a lot of money building a Zoom capability, and very few of you have used it, except for when in an emergency situation when you couldn't make it. So we have that capability to reduce the damage or the risk if there is any.
So right off the bat, Julie uses this Zoom call capability to start to demonize the people that don't want to wear the mask in county council, so we don't hurt Tom Gardner's feelings. He wants them to use a Zoom call. You know, y'all could have used a Zoom call. It's right there for you and everything. Well, what the hell? Put the shoe on the other foot. Why hadn't Tom done it? He did it before. I've seen several of them do it. I've seen Jimmy do it. I've seen them all do it except Julie Burns. But he's trying to demonize anybody that doesn't wear a mask at this point. Let's continue on, Julie Burns. Julie Burns.
A resolution at the county level was built on the fundamental basis that we believed in the ability of our free people in this county to make their own decisions and to act out of common courtesy and common sense.
Okay, common courtesy and common sense. You don't have any courtesy and no common sense if you don't do as I command. Don't do as I wish. Don't do as I believe. And the only reason I'm not passing an ordinance is because I don't think I got the votes. I talked to everybody, and I don't think I got the votes. If I had the votes, damn, I'd pass this thing. See, it's a demonization again. The collective is demonizing the individual and telling them not to think. Do not think. Do as I tell you. That's what they're saying. Go ahead, Julie Burns.
As we did today, when we got overloaded in here. And we have encouraged them to follow the best advice. But unfortunately, it's become a bit politicized at the national and state and county, and now in this room, where common courtesy seems to need a lawyer to pass a law when somebody politely asks you to follow the rules of the House or to be considerate of other people.
Politely ask you to follow the rules of the House. There's no rules about mask wearing in the House. Not a damn one of them. And besides that, Julie Burns, you're not allowed to mandate to me or Jimmy Jones or Ben Connell or anybody out in the public that they could do harm to themselves. You can't just wish me to wear a mask. You can't wish Jimmy Jones to wear a mask. Common courtesy. Have the common courtesy to let me make my own damn mind up. And if you don't like me not wearing the face diaper for your ass, go on down the road. You run anytime anybody wants to talk to you about the truth, about these boondoggles and economic development and Agenda 2030 that you're a part of. You run like hell, you lying thief. Go ahead, spew your bullshit.
That's why we have lawyers. In this room, we are policymakers, and we have the authority, as I understand, as the chairman, to govern these spaces.
See, the little dictator is now saying, as chairman, I've got the authority to rule over anything that goes on inside this chamber. That's what he's saying. What he's saying is, it doesn't matter if you pass this resolution or not. I'll use my decorum. That's what they call it. Oh, he has a liberal decorum abilities. That's why he can ban the word steal and to ban the word whereas when I wrote them in or spoke about it. See, he doesn't have to tell you diddly squat. He don't have to do nothing. He can just tell anybody anything. If he came in and said, stand on your head for decorum, I guess that everybody'd stand on their damn head. He's a dictator. That's what he's using right now, and demonization to get compliance.
And much has been made of the push and pull of whether we wear a mask or not. And we've been polite about it, but nevertheless, this is deeply ingrained. And where a courtesy ought to behave when someone asks you to do something, when you go into their house.
Now he tries to say, you know, that's his house. And when you come into his house and he said makes the rules, you have to obey the rules. That's common courtesy. Well, guess what? That ain't your damn house, boy. That ain't your damn house. Supposedly, you work for us. How can you dictate to us what we do in our house? Decorum my ass. You're a little dictator. A little midget, a little Napoleon. Why don't you just put your little hand up there like the little Napoleon? You like to reference the war and all this kind of stuff, and you never really been in a damn war to begin with. Just cleaning up and covering up for everything else the military done done. I know. Go ahead, keep going.
It's not a law. That's a request. It's a reasonable request.
See, it's not a law, it's a request. A reasonable request. What the hell is reasonable? None of this makes any sense except that he wants to submission. That's what all this government mask mandate and recommendations and 2 masks and no mask and social distancing and all kinds of different ways and the vaccine's safe and all this kind of crap. They're lying to you. And he's either bought into the line or more likely playing right into the plan. Go ahead there, Julie Byrne.
I'm astonished that we have to parse words, and I know the meaning of words, when just a simple common courtesy would be sufficient. I've seen pictures of our national leaders, our state leaders, we have one of them here, where out of regard for the rules of the house he or she happened to be in.
Then he goes, now he references the members of the cathedral of the state, the obedient little politicians all over the place wearing masks and even double masks. We've even seen Joe Biden wearing double masks, y'all. That must mean they're right. And then the next thing you know, they're caught here and there and there and everywhere. No mask, all up inside each other, swapping spit. Just like old Sammy Tucker said, ooh, they'd be up in there swapping spit. Gonna career old grandma. How about rules for thee, but not for me? You're so foolish. Man, go ahead there, Jews.
That person wore a mask. Famously. They all wore masks. And then they took them off when they felt they didn't need to.
Then they took them off when they felt they didn't need to. Well, they got to decide when they felt like it. Their feelings are okay. Whenever they feel that they can, get away with, take off the mask. But your feelings don't mean anything. If you won't wear the mask when I want you to wear the mask, your feelings don't count. Only my feelings, don't you know?
But in here, we have a resolution that appeals to your sensibilities as a human and as a Christian, I would say, but also as a citizen.
Appeals to your reasonability as a Christian. See, now he's going to demonize you. If you don't wear a mask, you ain't no damn Christian. Jesus would have said, Romans 13, wear the damn mask, see? Because Jesus is a socialist, David Snodgrass. So, and then as a good citizen, citizens are good, obedient citizens. They do as the cathedral says. After all, you pledge allegiance to the cathedral every day, especially in the indoctrination camps. Be a good little obedient little slave and just wear the damn mask, y'all.
And as a comrade of this group, and as a comrade of this group, and as a comrade of this group.
Oh, great day to comrade. Comrade, as a comrade of this group. Oh, I'm your comrade. We are all comrades. Huh? All good for the collective, y'all.
Courtesy. Out of common courtesy, out of respect for a vulnerable person and persons in here, to wear a mask.
Out of respect for the vulnerable people that could have stayed at home and had a Zoom call. Could have been sitting there practicing on his ventilator without his britches on and his mask on and been safe as hell. But no, he got to come down here and try to make everybody feel bad because he's sick and scared and all this and wants y'all to wear a mask.
A face covering. So we're going to get into the issue of whether it's a face covering or a mask, or it has how many threads per ply per square meter, and I find that rather trivial.
So he don't even want to talk about making an amendment in there to tell you what the mask should be. Well, I know a guy that's got a piece of wire, a piece of screen wire, and he's made a mask out of it and put it around his ears and all, and he walks in with that, and it works just as good as every mask that's on every one of these boys in this damn meeting. Y'all know that? It's kind of like putting up a chain link fence to stop the skeeters from getting in. Wear the mask, dumbass. Go ahead, finish up.
There's no stronger law than the law of the human heart. Those of us who have led men and women in tight spots, and there's some of you in here know what I'm talking about when you're getting shot at. You rely upon that person to do something. And you don't have a law, you don't have an order, you don't have a regulation, but you have a sense of trust and confidence in that person that they care for you and you care for them and they care for the team. And that's how America wins wars, and that's how we're going to get through this plague.
Y'all hear that? Be a team player, y'all. Be a team player. If you ain't going with the mask right now, guess what? We can't trust you. No, you don't care for us, and you know, there ain't no I in team, boys and girls. Ain't no I in team. No, that's how we didn't win the war with I. It was team. Don't you know? Our leader is disappointing in us, y'all. Because Jimmy Jones won't wear a mask. and people not wearing a mask in there. I'm just disappointed in y'all. Y'all are bad little boys. Y'all ain't listening to the cathedral. And I'm one of the deacons. I'm the head deacon in this area. I am the man. I am the dictator. I'm Jimmy Jones. I'm Julie Burns. I'm David Snodgrass. I'm Samuel Tucker.
So we are here where we are, and I'm just amazed at the discussion and disappointed. With that, we move to a vote.
Tom the Scaredy Cat Gardner. Julie Burns. Russell Brazel, who hasn't said diddly squat about the mask yet. And Ben Cornell and Jimmy Jones. They all deacons of the state. State worship. That's the cathedral right there. The little cathedral.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. It's Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. We have Mr. Jones, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. The resolution passes. So with that, we move forward. I would now ask you all in non-compliance, please, to put your mask on. Thank you, Mr. Dabney. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Gwynn. I appreciate it. Mr. Jones, can you join us?
Not at the moment.
So right here. So here comes the great mask standoff again. So there's 3 people in that room right now. There's social distance out in the audience and all. Victor Dabney, who was just elected to the State House, is in there and doesn't have a mask on, but then complies. You hear Julie Burns say, "Thank you, Mr. Dabney." And then there's a lady in there. She puts the mask on. Jimmy Jones is the only one not in compliance. So, let's see what happens.
Not at the moment.
Can I ask you, as I did 2 weeks ago, to please put your mask on?
Let's call a recess and you and I have a talk.
No. I'm
No,
asking-
call a recess. You and I can have a talk.
Well, we're going to go to a recess.
Then I'm not going to put my mask on.
Okay. With that, gentlemen, I'm going to declare a short recess, and thank you for the discussion. I'm here. Turn the mics off, if you will.
And so it is. A recess. They always turn the mics off. So what's going to happen? The suspense is building. The great mass standoff. Is Jimmy Jones going to submit, or is he going to stand on his principle that it's not a law? It's not a law. It doesn't make any sense. But if y'all make it a law, I'll obey. What is he going to do? Everybody else has already put the mask on. Is he going to stand for the people and their individual rights or not? We have to wait and see. Okay, they're coming back from recess now. I know the video was fast, but you could slow that little piece down if you wanted to. But you see what they were doing? Jimmy Jones and Julie Burns sure had a big long discussion right there. I wonder what all that was about. I think we're about to find out. Let's go back from recess. Listen to this.
Okay, we're back from recess. Mr. Templer, I think we got the mics live and we're still streaming. All right, very good. It was a very helpful discussion with Mr. Jones. I need to apologize to Michael Carton as he leaves. I didn't realize that Mr. Jones intended to do a public statement, and so I made an error by calling Mr. Carton up first, Mr. Jones, so please accept my apology.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Very
you.
good. Now we'll move on, and I notice you still don't have your mask on. Would you help us by maybe putting your mask on so we can move forward?
I'm going to ask, Ben Connell, you and I had a little discussion just now.
Sure.
Would you explain what you explained to me?
Sure. as best as I can recall.
Yeah, I'll remind you if it's not exactly right.
Okay. Well, in these chambers, a lot of us, including me, from time to time, invoke the name of the Lord. But one I've really thought about whenever Mr. Gardner originally asked me and explained to me his situation was that the Lord has asked us to, if a brother makes a request to go 1 mile with him, you go with him twain. And if he asks you to give you his shirt, you give him your cloak also. That's how I've viewed this. I also shared with him that.
So there goes Ben invoking the Bible again and the teachings of Jesus. In particular, Jesus didn't say if the guy says to do something stupid that doesn't make any sense, that is not proven, like jumping off a cliff, you don't do that. I don't think he had to say that. He was saying if the guy makes a reasonable request and needs some help, you go help him. You do more than that. He didn't say do something senseless. If the guy is an idiot, don't follow him. But that goes without saying. But Ben is pulling those heartstrings, pulling those. If you don't wear a mask and care for your brother, you're not a Christian. That's what he's trying to say. So he's working on capitulation, and that is an interesting thing. Oh, Ben Connell, me and Jimmy Jones and Ben Connell had this nice discussion during recess, and he's convinced me that, I love everybody and that kind of thing. So maybe it's okay if I follow this nonsensical, not a law resolution. Isn't that right? Something like that?
In my view, only social pressure or long suffering and reasoning and logic should apply in this room.
Ben says only social pressure, long suffering, and reasoning and logic should apply in this room. What the hell does that mean? Social pressure. That means all the people on council jumping on somebody for not wearing a mask. It's their feelings thing. Virtue signaling is what he's saying. He said virtue signaling is okay. If 8 of you got bad feelings about one person not wearing a mask, that's a justifiable thing, to use. And then long suffering. Now what the hell does that mean? Long suffering. If Tom's been sick that long, he needs to stay if he's that sick, stay at home. Even Julie Burns said Zoom meeting, dog. Y'all can Zoom meeting all you want. You can stay home, practice on your ventilator without no pants on. Swap spit with yourself. Isn't that right, Sammy Tucker? Go ahead, Ben. Let's continue on.
We shouldn't have a targeted law necessarily that applies to one particular person. But in some way it is what it is. Council has voted, and there will be mechanisms to correct it later if need be.
There'll be mechanisms to correct it later if need be. Now, did you all understand what that means? That's a threat. That's saying, Jimmy Jones, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't wear that mask, they're going to vote for a law, an ordinance that requires you to wear it. And it will be a law then. That's what he talks about, a mechanism. Whether Ben Connell votes for it or not, there are 4 people on county council, David Snodgrass, Samuel Tucker, Tom the Fearful Gardner, and Julie Burns. Those 4 are guaranteed to vote an ordinance in. So, Jimmy, you comply with the majority of crybabies and chicken livers and non-fact knowing jackasses. It's an idiocracy, remember. You either comply with them or they're going to make it a law, and you will comply then, right? Because even if it's a stupid law, I'll comply with it. But I'm not complying, y'all. I'm not submitting. I'm Jimmy Jones. I'm a man of the people. I stand for y'all's rights. But I comply if it's a law, a stupid law too. All right, let's finish it up this little round. We're almost done, boys and girls.
But again, I just think it's courtesy and trying to help somebody out.
Thank you. I think that's a good summary.
Thought it was too.
Say again?
I said I thought it was too.
I'm sorry.
I said I thought it was a good summary as well. That's why I asked him to repeat.
You hear that? Julie Burns and Jimmy Jones said, man, that's a good summary. You know, I like that. Ain't that something how he come up with that? Great goodness. Well, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, can we ask you to put your mask on?
No, Mr. Gardner can ask me if I'll put my mask on.
Ho, ho, ho! Julie Burns, Jimmy Jones, can I ask you to put your mask on, please? No, but Mr. Tom Gardner can. Mr. Tom Gardner can. Ain't that something? Capitulation. He just gave him an excuse. He gave him a way out. He gave him a way out, a way to save face. I'm not complying, I'm not submitting, but I'll submit. If somebody say I got to submit, or somebody requests that I submit, I submit. But I ain't submitting. This ain't submission. The idiocracy of these boys is just apparent. Now, I don't know what they do during the week and all, but they damn sure don't do the homework. They don't do their own independent fact-checking, not relying on the fact-checkers and the mainstream media and whatever the hell comes from the cathedral way up on the top, the Fauci's and the CDC and who have been known to lie over and over and over and over and over again. But no, that's the only ones we believe, y'all. But Jimmy's done give them an excuse. What is going to happen? Well, guess what? Tom said, Jimmy, please put on your mask.
All right, certainly.
Jones, would you put your mask on?
Because of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I really appreciate it.
Let's proceed as we go. Thank you, Ben, for that elucidation.
And thank you, Big Connell, for giving us a lesson in virtue signaling. I'm glad you gave us a solution to this here problem. Everybody's going to comply now because everybody wants to be Christian and they want to take care of Tom, who's scared like hell of the Rona that has a better than 98% chance of survival, even with his sick ass. You see? The idiocracy is this collective. This collective I call the cathedral of state, the state worship. You know, the government's been lying to us for decades and decades and decades. Everybody even tell you, politicians are liars, liars. But when it comes to this corona thing, all of a sudden they believe everything that comes out of the damn mouth. How come they're censoring everybody that has an alternative opinion? How come they're demonizes everybody that won't wear a mask and won't comply and wants to kill grandma? Why is that? Why is that? Why don't they've silenced any voices like that? Why is it? Because they have no basis in reality. They're an idiocracy. They're run by idiots. They're people run by useful idiots for an agenda that they don't even understand. They have no idea if this shot is any safe or any good. They've done absolutely none of their homework and all. They stand for no principle. They'll comply with any kind of stupid law, rule, regulation, resolution, or if somebody just whines and says wear a butt plug, they'll put one in. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the virtue signaling and demonization ended there. And they continued on doing the people's work. And so too, with that ends this episode, the latest episode of Adventures in Idiocracy. Just remember, question everything. Do your own research and think for yourself.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Lock the door. Lock the door. Take away the key. Take away